Now, the premise of this video is going to be all about attacking, and I'm going to use the shapes that everybody in the comment section seems to love. We're going to talk about how these work as an attack, but we're also going to kind of compare them to something that you've probably seen before. The first thing that I'm going to talk about is the shape 1. So when I'm doing the shape 1, it looks like a helmet for the head. Now, the way this relates is when it comes to elbow attacks. So the shape 1 here is going to be thrown from this basic position. Now, if you look at it, this looks a lot like a uppercut elbow from something like Muay Thai or Lethwei. When I throw that, the force is coming up from underneath and it's going up. Now, if you take this same thing and you put it in the shape, you get the exact same elbow. So when I'm in close and I'm going to use this shape, and I'm going to kind of keep it loose so you can see what all is going on, I'm throwing this elbow coming straight up. Straight up. Now, granted, I do have the connection with my other hand to where it's allowing protection for my head from all different angles. But in the view of just a plain attack, when I'm throwing this elbow, as you would see in Muay Thai or Lethwei, it's the exact same elbow. Elbow number 2 that I want to go over is going to be just your horizontal elbow. Now, when I'm throwing this horizontal elbow, it's coming across this horizontal plane. I'm making contact with this part of the elbow here, and I'm keeping my other hand up as a guard. I'm also turning my body so I can maximize the amount of power that I'm throwing behind this. Now, a cool thing is that when I'm throwing the same attack from this shape, it's the exact same elbow. So being in the shape, my hand's coming up to my head, my other hand's making that contact, and I'm throwing that elbow. I'm making this contact, again, going across that horizontal plane. I'm using the same type of turning mechanic. I'm making contact with the same part of my elbow. The only thing that changes is it's in the connection of the shape. Again, I'm trying to keep in mind that I might have multiple opponents. So I'm trying to keep a little extra guard on my head. But again, this is an attack. And it's the exact same elbow as you would see in kickboxing. The next elbow I want to talk about, you see in Thai boxing, you see in Krav Maga even, is the elbow that drops straight down. Now, if I have somebody that's kind of lower than me, I could drop it straight on their head, right? I could use it as a defensive measure, meaning that if there's a knee or something coming up, I can drop that elbow straight down. Now, when I'm throwing this from a more conventional sense, my hands are going to be up, I'm pointing my fingers, exposing the elbow, and I'm just dropping that straight down. Now, when I do this, I'm dropping my whole body, right? So I can maximize the amount of force that I'm bringing into this attack. Now, if you put it into a shape, it's the exact same elbow. All I'm going to do is I'm going to shape up on my head, I'm going to drop my body down. My shape is going to kind of flow a little bit to where it's sliding on my head per se, but I'm getting the exact same attack. I'm getting the exact same mechanics. The only thing that changes, again, is the fact that it's coming out of a shape. Another elbow I want to talk about is the diagonal elbow going up. So if I'm coming here, right, if I'm throwing this from a kickboxing stance, my hand that I'm not elbowing with is going to be up at my guard. My other hand is going to go across at a diagonal motion. And again, I'm hitting with the elbow. Now, if you put the same elbow into a shape, I get the exact same attack. So I have my elbow that you would see in conventional kickboxing, right? But I'm going to put it inside of a shape and get the same attack. Another Thai elbow that I like to talk about is going to be the diagonal elbow going down. Now, when I throw this elbow, I'm going to turn my hand to expose my elbow and allow for the range of motion for that elbow to travel downwards. Now, if you put the same elbow into the shape, you get the same result, the same type of body mechanic. The only thing that I'm going to change is I'm going to make that connection and I'm going to go down. The body mechanic for this does change a little bit because, as you can tell, when I throw the Thai elbow, my hand is pointing outwards to expose that elbow. Whereas when I'm doing the shape, I'm making contact with my forearm. However, as far as the rest of the body mechanic goes, it's not changing at all. One of my most favorite elbows to throw, whether I'm throwing kickboxing or whether I'm just working on the bag, is going to be the direct elbow. Now, when I throw the direct elbow from here, I'm going to expose the elbow. I'm keeping my hand open and I'm turning my shoulders in so I can hit with that point. I want to get as much rotation out of my body as I can because obviously just throwing with my arm is not going to do me any good. I want to make sure that I turn the body, again, exposing the bony part of the elbow, and I'm going directly into my opponent. Now, if you put this inside of a shape, you get the exact same thing. The only thing that changes, again, is the protection on the head. But from here, I'm going to make this shape. I'm going to use that same body mechanic. I'm going to turn my body in. I'm going to expose the bony part of my elbow, and I'm going to throw that same direct elbow. For the camera, the way that looks is I'm just turning my body in, the same way as if I was throwing it from kickboxing. Another elbow that we could throw in there just for grins is the turning elbow. Now, if you watch somebody pull this off in a fight, it's absolutely amazing because it's flashy, it looks cool, but it's also extremely devastating. When I'm throwing this elbow from more of a kickboxing stance, I want to step across to allow full rotation in my body, but also I want to make sure that I'm within the right range of my opponent. So when I step across, I'm going to turn my body and I'm driving in. I want to make sure that I expose this elbow and I'm driving this straight into my opponent. From here, I'm just going to step back and get into my fight stance. Again, I'm stepping across, I'm turning my body, I'm bringing this elbow up, and I'm driving straight into my opponent. Within the shape, you can get the exact same thing. The only thing that changes is the contact area. So when I'm doing this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to step across just as we did before. I'm stepping across, I'm making this shape, and I'm turning my body, and I'm driving straight into my opponent. Now, I said that this changed a little bit because of the contact point. When I'm throwing this tie elbow, I'm throwing with either the back of the elbow or the bony part of the elbow. When I'm throwing it within the shape, a lot of times, not every time, I'm making contact with the wing part of the elbow, which means the outside here. So as I step across, I'm turning, making this shape, and I'm driving this in. Now, the cool thing that this gets me from a more of a self-defense type scenario is that once I'm here, I can drive into this opponent, but I'm also looking at other potential opponents that might be around me. My hands are up at my head, again, giving me just a little bit more protection, right? And then I can go off and face whatever threat may be. In the world today, it doesn't take too much to be able to look about and see divisiveness. And this is especially true for the world of martial arts. It's so easy to see something else, somebody doing something else that we don't do, and we end up hating on them for it because I think that's stupid. But we forget that we have more in common than what we want to believe. So in conclusion, I want you to remember that for the demonstration purposes of this video, we only used one shape. There are multiple hand positions of which you can put your hands on your head. And the elbows that we're utilizing for an attack can be used across all these different positions. So no matter where you find your hands on your head, you can utilize the elbows for the attack. Keep in mind, even though it seems like we're pretty different, at the end of the day, we're a lot more alike than what we realize.